Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, page 28a, top of the page, with the words Ha Dikai Mizrach Umarav Ve'adi, Ha Dikai Tzafon Ve'darom Ve'adi. This Braita, which teaches that the sprinklings are valid only when performed precisely toward the entrance of the tent of meeting, is referring to a case where the priest is standing with his back to the east and his front facing west, and he sprinkles the blood. In this case, although the priest does not direct the sprinklings precisely toward the entrance of the sanctuary, they are valid since he himself is facing the sanctuary. That Braita, which teaches that the sprinklings are not valid when performed not precisely toward the entrance of the tent of meeting, is referring to a case where the priest is standing facing north or south and he sprinkles the blood. In this case, since he is facing the wrong direction, they are not valid. Amar Mar Bishebifnim ושבמצוירו שלא לשמון פסולויס שלא מכוונות כשרויס ויתניה בין שלא לשמון בין שלא מכוונות כשרויס. The master says in the Braita, but with regard to the sprinkling of the blood that takes place inside the sanctuary and the sprinkling of the oil that takes place during the purification of the leper, if these are performed not for their own sake, then they are not valid. But if they were performed not precisely toward the Holy of Holies, they are valid. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in the Braita that with regard to the sprinklings of oil during the purification of the leper, whether they were performed not for their own sake, or whether they were performed not precisely toward the Holy of Holies, they are valid? Amar Rav Yosef, lo ikashia. Rabbi Eliezer v'ho Rabbanon. Rabbi Eliezer dimakesh osham lachatos, makesh nami lo leosham Rabbanon lemakshi. Rav Yosef said, this is not difficult. This first Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and that second Braita is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. He explains, Rabbi Eliezer is the Tana who juxtaposes the guilt offering to a sin offering, teaching that just as a sin offering is disqualified when sacrificed not for its sake, so too the guilt offering, such as the leper's guilt offering, is disqualified when sacrificed not for its own sake. As it is written, as is the sin offering, so is the guilt offering. There is one law for them. Leviticus 7, verse 7. He also juxtaposes the law of oil of the leper to the guilt offering of the leper in the same verse, teaching that if the sprinkling from the log of oil was performed not for its own sake, it is not valid. In contrast, the rabbis do not juxtapose the guilt offering to the sin offering, and therefore they have no reason to invalidate the sprinkling from the leper's log of oil that is performed not for its own sake. The Gemara asks, but according to Rabbi Eliezer, is it so that a matter derived via juxtaposition then teaches a halacha to another case via juxtaposition? There is a principle that with regard to consecrated matters, a halacha derived via juxtaposition cannot subsequently teach a halacha via juxtaposition. Therefore, the necessity for the sprinklings of the log of oil to be performed for its own sake cannot be derived from juxtaposition between the guilt offering of the leper and the sprinkling of the oil. Rather, Rambam said, both this Braita and that Braita are in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. Here, where the Braita teaches that the sprinklings are valid, it means that they were effective in rendering the offering valid and allowing the priests to partake of the remainder of the log, whereas there, where the Braita teaches that the sprinklings are not valid, it means that they do not affect acceptance, as they do not satisfy the obligation of the owner, and therefore the leper is still prohibited from partaking of sacrificial meat. New Mishnah. Shiva kane menoiro miakvin zeze, Shiva neroiseho miakvin zeze, Shtei parashiois, Shiva mezuzah miakvoi zuezu, afilu kosa vechad miakvan. With regard to the 7 branches of the menorah, the candelabrum, see Exodus 25:32, the absence of each prevents fulfillment of the mitzvah with the others. With regard to its 7 lamps atop the branches, the absence of each prevents fulfillment of the mitzvah with the others. With regard to the 2 passages that are in the mezuzah, which are the first, Deuteronomy 6:1-9, and second, the absence of even 1 letter prevents fulfillment of the mitzvah with the rest of them. Arba parshiot shebatfilin makvin zoezo afilu kosa ve'echad miakvon. Arba tzitziois miakvoi zoezo. She'arba son mitzvah achas v'yishma lo yimer. Arba tan arba mitzvos. With regard to the 4 passages that are in the phylacteries, which are the 2 passages in the mezuzah and 2 additional passages, Exodus 13:1-10 and 11-16, the absence of each prevents fulfillment of the mitzvah with the others. Furthermore, the absence of even 1 letter prevents the fulfillment of the mitzvah with the rest of them. With regard to the 4 ritual fringes on a garment, the absence of each prevents fulfillment of the mitzvah with the others, as the 4 of them constitute 1 mitzvah. Rabbi Yishmael says the 4 of them are 4 discrete mitzvot, and the absence of 1 does not prevent fulfillment of the mitzvah with the rest. That's the Mishnah, and now for the Gemara. Zog the Gemara my time, frag the Gemara my time, havaya ksibehu. What is the reason that the absence of any of the 7 branches of the candelabrum prevents the fulfillment of the mitzvah with the others? The Gemara answers, it is written concerning them a term of being, their knobs and their branches shall be of 1 piece with it. Exodus 25:36. And a term of being indicates an indispensable requirement. Haisa ba mina ha'eshes mina zohov. Ha'eshet umina zahav. Asa mina grutois psulo. Yishavin matachois kesheva. Ma yishna mina grutois psulo. Diksiv miksha v'haita v'havaya. Sha'ar bine matachois namiza v'havayo. The sages taught in Tosefta Chulin 118, the candelabrum was fashioned from a complete block, from eshet, ha'eshet. Okay, and from gold. If they fashion it from fragments from hagrutaot of gold, then it is unfit. But if they fashion it from other types of metal rather than gold, it is fit. The Gemara asks, what is different about a candelabrum made from fragments of gold that is rendered unfit, as it is written in regard to it? Their knobs and their branches shall be of 1 piece with it, the whole of it one beaten work of pure gold. Exodus 25:36. Employing the term beaten, miksha, and a term of being, indicating that it is an indispensable requirement, but accordingly a candelabrum fashioned from other types of metal should be rendered unfit as well, since the verse states that if it is made from gold and uses a term of being. Amako Teosel Rabois Shalmini Matochois Emel Rabois Grutois Loisel Gledaitoch De Amiksha Ksiva Havayo. The Gemara answers, the verse states, and you shall make a candelabrum of pure gold, of beaten work will the candelabrum be made. Exodus 25:31, to exclude other types of metal. The Gemara asks, but why not say that the expression will be made serves to include a candelabrum fashioned from fragments of gold? The Gemara answers, it cannot enter your mind To say this as the term of being, which indicates an indispensable requirement, is written with regard to the command that the candelabrum be a beaten work, meaning fashioned from a single block and not from different fragments, as it is stated, shall be a one beaten work. Exodus 25:36. Tease nami amiksha ksiv, miksha leakev. The Gemara challenges, but the term will be made is also written with regard to the command that the candelabrum be a beaten work, as it is written of beaten work will the candelabrum be made. Exodus 25:31. The Gemara answers the term beaten work appears in Exodus 25:31, and the term beaten work appears again in Exodus 25:36 to demonstrate that this requirement is indispensable. Zahav, nami la'akev. The Gemara challenges, but the term gold appears in Exodus 25:31, and the term gold appears again in Exodus 25:36. Why not also say that this as well is to demonstrate that this requirement is indispensable? Hi mai iam bishom menagutois pisula mishamine mataris keshera hani hainu zahav miksha lidrasha ela yamrit menagutois kesher mishar mine mataris pisula zahav miksha mai drashta. The Gemara answers, what is this comparison? Granted, if you say that when the candelabrum is fashioned from fragments of gold, it is unfit, but when fashioned from other types of metal, it is fit, then this is the reason that it was necessary for the verse to state gold twice, and a beaten work twice, to teach an interpretation, which is explained shortly. But if you say that when the candelabrum is fashioned from fragments of gold, it is fit, but when fashioned from other types of metal, it is unfit, what do you interpret from the repeated terms gold, and a beaten work? My dasha, Titania, Kikos of Toil. Yasoi says, Kola Kalim Oile. Bazov, Bo Kikor, Eno Bobzov. Eno Bo Kikor, Givieho, Kaftoireho, Ubrocheho. Bazov, Bo Givim, Kaftoirim, Ufrochim. The Gemara elaborates what interpretation is referenced above, as it is taught in a bright, and the verse states of a talent of pure gold. It will be made with all these vessels. Exodus 25:39. This verse teaches that if the candelabrum is fashioned of gold, it must be fashioned with the precise weight of a talent. And if it is not fashioned of gold, but of other types of metal, then it does not need to be fashioned with the precise weight of a talent. Similarly, the verse, and you will make a candelabrum of pure gold, of beaten works shall the candelabrum be made, even its base, its shaft, its goblets, its knobs, and its flowers. Exodus 25:31 teaches that if the candelabrum is fashioned of gold, it must be fashioned with goblets, knobs, and flowers. And if it is not fashioned of gold, but of other types of metal, then it does not need to be fashioned with goblets, knobs, and flowers. Emanami bazav baganim, enai bazav enai baganim, ahu pamot mikrei. The Gemara asks, but then, why not also say, with regard to the branches of the candelabrum which are described in Exodus 25:31, along with the term gold, that if the candelabrum is fashioned of gold, it must be fashioned with branches. But if it is not fashioned of gold, but other types of metal, then it does not need to be fashioned with branches. The Gemara answers, a vessel is that is called a candlestick, pamot, not a candelabrum. With regard to the second derivation mentioned, the Gemara elaborates. The verse states, and this was the work of the candelabrum, beaten work of gold, to the base thereof, and to the flowers thereof. It was a beaten work. Numbers 8:4. This teaches that if the candelabrum is fashioned of gold, it must be fashioned as a beaten work. But if it is not fashioned of gold, but of other types of metal, then it does not need to be fashioned as a beaten work. and may be made from fragments. Miksha is even lamai also lemuti chatzois. The Tanya chatzois hayu boim min eshes min akesef asam min akutois ksheri mishal minei matoris psulim. The Gemara asks, from what purpose does this term beaten work that is repeated again in the latter clause of the verse come? The Gemara answers, it comes to exclude the trumpets, teaching that they are fit, even if they were not fashioned from a single block, as it is taught in a Braiso, the silver trumpets that Moses was commanded to fashion in the wilderness were fashioned from a complete block and from silver. If one fashioned them from fragments, they are fit, but if he fashioned them from other types of metal, then they are unfit. The Gemara asks, and what is the difference about trumpets made from other types of metal that they are rendered unfit, as it is written with regard to the trumpets? Make for yourself 2 trumpets of silver of beaten work, that you shall make them, and they shall be for you for the calling of the congregation. Numbers 10:2. The verse employs the term silver and being, indicating that it is an indispensable requirement. But accordingly, trumpets fashioned from fragments should be rendered unfit as well. Since the verse employs the terms beaten work and being, the Gemara answers, the merciful one excludes the trumpets when it states, with regard to the candelabrum, it was beaten work, Numbers 8:4, indicating that it alone, but not the trumpets, was beaten work. Tanu Rabbanon kol kelim. Okay, we'll stop here, and we'll start on the next Amud, God willing, 28b.